There is a killer in this cast, and someone on this stage is about to die.
Oh my God.
Hartford 901, what's your emergency?
It looks like strangulation marks.
An imposter on the prowl.
He is able to present himself to the world in a very different light than the way he actually is.
Acting on evil.
He staged her body.
A real-life thriller as twisted as any drama.
You've got one woman who's been attacked and another woman who's dead.
A lot of dark stuff.
And when the plot finally unravels,
Right when I saw his face, I'm like, yeah.
the suspect at the center
We told him, you had the wrong guy.
will leave a community stunned and several families torn apart.
No remorse, no compassion.
No, honey, no.
I've interviewed killers before. He's at a different level.
This was Jessie Blodgett, the essence of who she was, and on most days, how you'd find her.
Every time I would go over to her house, she'd be playing the piano. Even when I was trying to talk to her, she'd be playing the piano, and I'd be like, I'm trying to talk to you. You know, she was always singing, always dancing.
And as both a public performer and a music tutor for local kids, Jessie was something of a star in the small town of Hartford, Wisconsin.
What was she like as a little girl?
She was brilliant. In first grade, the teacher created her own curriculum for Jessie, and when the class's spelling words were and the, Jessie's first one was metamorphosis, an anesthesiologist.
A brilliant mind that Jessie would use to pursue many passions as she grew, from fighting for animal rights to advocating against violence towards women. But in the end, it always came back to music.
We actually wrote some songs together. She was just brilliant at writing music.
But Jessie wasn't the only exceptional talent to come out of Hartford. Enter her good friend and classmate, Dan Bartelt.
Dan and Jess sat next to each other every day in school, all through high school. Dan was a gifted violinist. He was first chair and Jess was second chair.
Dan was hilarious. You know, I always thought he was the funny, really outgoing, always making jokes. He was also very smart. I kind of admired their friendship.
Jessie and Dan also had a shared love for the stage, and on paper, they had all the makings of an arts-loving power couple, but they tried that. Didn't work.
They dated for about 3 or 4 months, freshman year of high school. They broke up.
But Dan is the one who broke it off. Why?
I don't know. We thought that he's a freshman in high school. He doesn't need to explain himself why he's not committed for life here.
And anyway, they were better as friends. After high school, Jessie and Dan went away to different colleges, but they reconnected the following summer.
Jess came home one day and said, Dad, Mom, Dan's back. He dropped out of college. He's a straight A student. What's up with that?
I know that they became really close when he had dropped out of college. They would play music together all the time. They were collaborating.
The two even wrote and recorded this song together, which now serves as something of a time capsule. Just a few weeks after posting that tune on YouTube, Jessie and Dan would be in the spotlight for separate but equal reasons. Dan landed a starring role in Bye Bye Birdie, and Jessie?
Jessie was the fiddler in Fiddler on the Roof.
Here she is playing for a packed house on opening weekend. These last few notes, Jessie's swan song.
That was her last night on Earth.
Just hours after curtain call, Jessie is seen here at the cast party, her smile apparently betraying some very uneasy feelings. Issues that had to do with at least 2 older men in attendance. Later that night, technically early the next morning, July 15th, Jessie returns home and runs into her mom. The two talk about that party.
They talked about 2 of the people at the cast party were kind of flirting with her.
She even put those feelings down in her diary that same night, writing in part, "I think I'm being corrupted. I think certain men are taking what should be platonic love and perverting it into a competition." But Jessie also goes on to write, "I am not helpless. I will recognize problems and confront them without fear. God be with me."
And then she went to bed.
Yes.
Around 8 the next morning, Jessie's mom, Joy, dropped some laundry off in Jessie's room before heading to work. Jessie's dad had already left for the day.
Jessie was asleep in her bed and everything was fine.
4 hours after that, Jessie's mom returned home for her lunch break. The house was quiet.
Joyce just thought she was sleeping in. She was a teenager on break.
But when she went to wake her daughter,
She was mad that Jess wasn't answering her. She went into Jessie's room. She couldn't understand why she wasn't responding. And then she touched her and Jessie was cold.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Hartford 911, what's your emergency?
My daughter is blue. I went to wake her up, and I just got home for lunch, and she won't wake up.
She's
oh
19.
My God.
Okay, hang on just a second. Trish. Okay, so is she breathing?
I don't think so, no.
Jessie is unresponsive, covered up in her own bed.
Okay, ma'am, do you know how to do CPR?
Jessie.
Do you know how to do CPR, ma'am?
She's cold. She's cold.
She's cold.
She's cold. Oh my God.
You can hear the anguish in her voice as she tries to process the scene and especially what she sees next.
Oh my God, she's good.
Okay.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
She rolled her over and she saw ligature marks.
Her pants are all wet and she's got, it looks like strangulation marks.
There are strangulation marks?
That's what it looks like. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on.
After that, the dispatcher puts Joy on hold while she alerts EMS. Sadly, it's already too late.
Honey, what happened to you? No. No. Honey, no. No.
That's how we found her, dead.
She was just 19 years old. Next,
Jess tried to tell me, and I didn't realize it.
Jessie Blodgett has been murdered. Did she see it coming?
Did you think it was someone who knew the victim, or did you think that this was a random act of violence?
And
All of a sudden, I see a knife in the guy's hand.
could another attack just days before reveal a chameleon with killer intentions?
You want to believe the best about your friends.
Find the bad guy. I'm right next.
You want to see your friends not be evil.
What did you find?
We found Jessie on the floor, very obvious mark on her neck, and marks on her wrist, very faint marks that could possibly have been binding marks. At that point, I believe we had a homicide on our hands.